You're listening to a CNA podcast. Welcome back to another episode of the Work It podcast. It's Tiffany and Gerald, your hosts, helping you to navigate your work life better. Now, in the past, we have tackled topics about internships, mid-career changes, and today we are going to talk about something that all of us will eventually experience or question, and that is how to stay relevant and employed if we want to, quote unquote, in our senior years. Now, Gerald, how old do you think you will want to work until? And I'm not talking about retirement, just work in general.
I think I'll work until the day I die.
Oh, really?
Really.
Wow.
I think because for me, I don't see work as a job. I don't see work as something that's a paid employment. I see work as an output.
So you work for free?
Yeah, I mean, when we are working in a job, that's where we get paid. But after we retire, let's say we are no longer in a job, it doesn't mean that our life stands still. I think we still do work, we still produce output, meaning that you provide something of value to people around you or to the society as a whole. And that's the thing that I hope to do throughout, until the day I die. I think the concept of work itself must extend beyond a job.
Okay.
Yeah. That's how I see it. But how about you?
A little bit different, slightly different. I definitely would like to work for as long as I can. But I think if I can afford it, I'll like to move to a part-time role after I'm 55.
Okay.
Yeah. Why 55? Mentally, it's like a milestone for me. And why part-time? I still want to be able to spend time leisurely doing whatever I want to do. And I need some form of fixed routine as well. So I know like maybe Monday to Wednesday, I'm working, and then Thursday, Friday, I can go and plan all my leisure stuff. Maybe that's just the way I see that arrangement.
So for you, 55 and above will be doing things that you want to do, doing the work that you want to do.
Exactly. Now I'm doing the work that I want to do, but at the back of my head, I know that I'm still working because I need the money to pay off my debts. So I'm just hoping that when I'm 55, I have no more debts, my children are old enough, then I can just pick and choose the things that I want to do, but still keep my mind active and still contribute to either journalism or society in general.
I think it's important that we start thinking about these things early, because I met so many seniors and they said they will kick the question down the road and then they will think about it only when they retire. And then I do feel a bit scared for them. So I'm glad that both of us, we are thinking about these things now already. Singapore has got an aging workforce. I think it's so important that our workforce gets a clearer idea of what life looks like after retirement, and is it even possible to extend their careers even more. So we need an expert in the house to share a bit more with us. So that's why we invited Lim Kai Ning, the co-founder of The Courage Chapter, a company that helps seniors job match to organizations that can use their expertise. So welcome, Kai Ning, to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So, Kai Ning, I looked through your website in preparation for this episode, and before we get to what you guys do and why that's important, I noticed an interesting term on your homepage: returnees.
Yes.
RETERNEES. Okay, explain to me, what does returnees mean?
You would notice that the word has no significance anywhere. The reason is very unique. The reason is because we didn't want people to anchor on what they used to know or what they think they know about senior professionals. So we wanted to create a whole new term.
Okay.
And then returnees to us is actually people returning to the workforce with the experience and the wisdom of a mentor, but the humility of an intern.
Okay, we'll get into the humility part of an intern because I think it can be quite challenging, especially when you are so experienced. I know that you work with seniors. How old are we talking about here?
So when we set up the Courage Chapter, we aim to be an inclusive employment platform, and we didn't want to do a reverse discrimination to say that people are too young to join us.
Okay.
But typically when we put out our messaging, the people that we attract, 80% of them are in their 50s and their 60s. Of course, we do have people in their mid-40s and in their 70s, but then after that is just the tinier end of the spectrum. But the government, like MOM, they would refer to mature workers as people from their 40s and above.
That's us, Gerald.
Yeah, we are mature workers, yes.
Oh no, I don't want to be a mature worker. I kind of feel like I'm just starting out, but I guess that's the definition. You say you're working with people within their 50s and 60s.
So there's a 20-year range.
Yeah. And was there a moment that you felt the need to start something like this? What is it that made you go, I see a gap and I feel that we need to start something?
Both my parents are retired. My dad had a bit of an early retirement and it was a conscious choice for him. But a lot of people, they think the Singaporean dream is to retire, right? They say, want to retire. But a lot of people after that, they realize, oh my gosh, what is there to do? I'm living for another 30 years. Is there something more meaningful that I can be doing? Can I contribute my expertise and my knowledge? Can I feel valued by society? So I think all these questions do creep in.
Was that something that your dad struggled with?
I didn't ask him specifically, but I think as I observed, I noticed that it wasn't very healthy for the mind if you don't do anything for the whole day. Eventually, my dad actually helped out a friend in a business and also started teaching adjunct. And I realized that, wow, he was so happy. So I realized that some people are happier, maybe not even working full time. They want to work part time in their own flexibility and own leisure. And their happiness, their mental health, physical health, everything just improves. So that's one aspect. And on the other side of the house, I did notice some of my mentors or some of my relatives, they got retrenched as well. Then what happens? Because they might still need the income. Yes, they need purpose and everything, but there's also some fundamental needs to fulfill as well. So who helps these people and how can they help themselves as well? As we started digging a little bit deeper, researching and all that, and started the Courage chapter, we realized, wow, it's such a huge thing. So many people are caught here. Many people are taught reflecting about their careers and all that, but I think not many people are knocking on the doors of companies to help them to think how can they hire senior professionals. So I think it takes two hands to clap, and that's the challenge that we see.
It is quite daunting to knock on the doors of organizations. Gerald, you mentioned many times on this podcast to tap into an existing network. But I think a lot of people who are maybe in their 50s, 60s, even in their 40s, right? You might feel at that point in time your network is not mature enough, is not wide enough because you may have only been in one or two companies.
Yeah, I think what I'm picking up from Kai Ning is that the question of extending careers beyond a certain age into longevity, it's not a question of 65 anymore. You have to really start thinking about these things earlier. You don't want to be caught in that situation where when it happens to you, whether involuntarily or voluntarily, you have no plan, right? And you have no idea, and then it gets unhealthy, right? I've seen so many of such examples of people just not having work and then they are struggling to find that identity, or they lose something. It's not just the salary, but I think they lose themselves.
With the people that you work with, Kai Ning, what is the top reason that they say motivates them to keep working?
So it depends on where they are in their stage of life. People in their early 50s would have a different requirement from people in their mid 60s or late 60s. Due to the nature of what we put out to the market, and the people that we attract are people who are looking to contribute in their second chapter. Most of our folks, they are not really here for the money, but they are here really to say that I have so much experience. I don't want to sit at home and do nothing. I want to work fractionally. I want to work for 2 days. I want to consult for a certain company. I want to help out to run projects. Since I have the knowledge in my brain, don't let it go to waste.
Is that a definition of fractional, which is choose the number of days you want to work?
So I think the word fractional is thrown around a bit loosely in Singapore. Usually fractional in the official term is more for the C-suites and very senior leadership. What I meant was really a part-time arrangement. But typically part-time also has a bit of a connotation that is very junior type of roles.
Yes.
While fractional has a very senior type of role. But right now we are seeing actually a lot of people are in the middle. The directors, the managers, right? All of them want to work part-time / fractionally. But essentially it's really, can they use their knowledge and their brain power to run projects independently?
I think that's a model where people exercise their choice, whether is it part-time, is it fractional. I'll throw in another word, portfolio.
Yes, portfolio.
Right? Portfolio is another concept where we want to just use our time, occupy our time to do something that we want to do. Like what you mentioned, after 55, you want to pursue the things that you want to do. Many of the seniors, as Kai Ning mentioned, they want that the next chapter of their life to fulfill what they didn't get to fulfill. It's a question of legacy. Do I leave behind something for the next generation? It's also a question of purpose. Do I fulfill what I needed to do as a person? I spent my whole life listening to somebody in the workplace, fulfilling a job responsibility, but what was the thing that I needed to do? So I think a lot of these questions are coming up more and more. There was a generation before, a much older generation, where no work is okay. I'm just going to watch the TV, just socialize, have my morning tea, afternoon tea. And that was good for them. That was the expectation. They're happy at that. But now we are starting to see more and more of these thoughts of what do? I've got 5 years left. What should I do the last 5 years of my career?
But I think you brought up a very good point, which is sometimes part-time roles are seen as a more junior position. Because I'm thinking that some of these seniors who are coming to you, they probably left their last job either in upper management or even in a C-suite level. So with the jobs that you are trying to job match them to, are they overqualified for these roles? And how do you help them to manage their expectation? And how do you help the company see that it's okay? Yes, I know you have a former CFO coming in to like maybe do your books, your bookkeeping.
So that's a very interesting point that you mentioned. I would say that Singapore and the rest of the world, right, the market is actually still very new to this concept. Right now, I think the people are moving towards this space where they say they will still want to contribute, but the market hasn't fully warmed up. So if you were to leave it to free market forces, right, you will realize that it actually spirals to blue collar or like F&B admin, right?
Yes.
And that's the struggle. So there's this huge chasm between what people want to do and what organizations think they can do. And so then how do we bridge the gap? There are some progressive companies that are coming and saying that, hey, actually these guys can come and work for me in little projects. And how we help them to see things is, we call it skill-based, project-based arrangements. In the past, people would be considered as overqualified because they have this huge like 20, 30 years of experience.
Yeah.
And then the role is just like small, right? So then you say, this person has too much experience for my role. But what if we turn it around and say that, what do you need for the role? Can the person do the job? If the person can do the job, then why you don't want to hire the person for that amount of pay? So it's a bit of a reframe on how companies look at hiring. And I think we also need to help them get over the mindset of wondering whether these seniors really want to do the job. Because some of them have some skepticism, right? One of the hiring managers said, this person so experienced CTO last
Why
time.
he wants to do
How
this?
come he want to do my project for me? Then I say, why he don't want? Like, why cannot? Why not?
Yeah.
So I think people who are not yet at that age, they have not understood. So how can we get the younger managers to understand the life stage of our older folks in order for them to find a fit?
Yeah, I think like you say, it's going to be a challenge because if I'm the hiring manager, I'm also looking at the current team. I have a leader, could be a full-time worker, and then now I'm going to try and bring in somebody who is maybe 20 years older than him. I mean, definitely we will CSI this person who's coming in, the returnee, just to see what's their background, and it can be quite demoralizing, maybe even for the team leader.
I think to find this pairing, this matching, right, it's not so easy.
No, it's not
right?
easy.
There's a lot of what I call signaling mismatches. Like when someone might say that they can do, but can they really do it? Do they really want to do it? Do they know about it enough such that the company is willing to take them on? So what do you all do to help companies to assess this fit?
Okay, so we make it a point to understand our community quite well. We, of course, to an extent that we can, because right now we have around 600 plus people in our community.
Wow.
We offer them a call when they sign up with us, and we would talk to them, what are their motivations, what are their skill sets, what are their experiences. So by understanding the profile of our people a bit deeper, beyond just rudimentary CV, skills and experiences, we know like what are their motivations and what they stand for. That is actually one of the unique selling points that we have. When we go to companies, we understand from the company the culture, what they're looking for, what is their team dynamics and all that. And then we'll be able to see the undercurrents of things, right? And then tell the employer that, hey, this person might be suitable for you. On the surface, it might seem that they can only do this, but do you know that they have so much other transferable skills that may be able to help your organization? And one of the interesting things is, because they are so-called overqualified, these people are able to do extra, like they can do other things for the organization. So for instance,
Buy one, get 10 free.
yeah, exactly. It's very interesting. And I would pitch that also. I say that, yes, you may have hired them for this, but then if you have problems, you can also get them to do that.
I see.
Right. So there was a company that engaged one of our senior professionals as just a resignation cover for 6 months. Just wanted to plug a gap of a HR director. But then behind the scenes, they wanted to revamp their com and ben processes. Then the lady was an ex-CHRO. So she obviously was overqualified thing, but she came in and then she helped them to boost their capability.
Wow.
So that's what I meant by like 2-in-1.
So these 600 people, they will stay with you for roughly how long as part of your community?
So we don't really have a specific time. It's actually quite an open community. We do our marketing. We attract the right people. They come into us and we engage them through like trainings, engagement sessions as well, just to understand our community a bit better. It's not to say that we keep it closed. We of course still open it up and we have people on our LinkedIn and our newsletter and all that. But I think the whole idea is, how can we shift from a traditional recruitment model, which is just what does a company want, to the other side of the house, like what do these people want and how can
what do these people have as well, right?
And what do they want, and then
yeah.
how can we match? I think it's a more community-based and humane way of doing things.
But it goes back to the idea of valuing that these people have a high level of skills that the workforce will need at some point, rather than saying use these people as a plug and play kind of method.
Yeah. Of course, it's not easy, right? Because we have to meet the market where they are.
Yeah.
We have to go where the paymasters are also, right? So if the company says that these are my requirements, then realistically speaking, speaking, we would have to find people suitable for them. So then that is the traditional method. But I think we are trying to be a bit more idealistic also, take a step back and say that, what are the skills and strengths that seniors have and how can we scope roles to fit them? But it's still an aspiration and it might be a bit harder to get there as well.
Because you mentioned about the market being maybe not so receptive.
Yes.
I'm sure that there are pockets of employers or sectors that are a little bit more open. Do you see a shift in this trend, like companies being more open?
Yes, we have been exploring the sectors, right? We do work with a couple of MNCs here and there. But I think the one sector that I see very prominently open to seniors is actually the social sector. Yeah.
So what kind of roles in the social sector, for
So
example?
it's interesting. So I wanted to talk about their demand side first. A lot of the MNCs now, it is actually an employer's market, meaning to say there is more supply of talent than demand. So then naturally they are more picky and all that, right? But actually the social sector, they lack the supply. So that really is a positive sign for us. And then what are some of the evergreen roles? Volunteer management could be one.
Okay.
Fundraising, the corporate functions, program management and all that. So what we are trying to do is to think what are the transferable skills that
Yes.
corporate folks have
Correct.
that can help them to transit into the social sector. And that is
Correct.
like their niche and USP. For example, business development folks in corporate, they can become fundraisers, right? HR people can become volunteer managers, etc.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's an amazing story, right? Transferring the know-how from private sector into social service. Social services, they got a lot of heart.
Yes.
But sometimes when it comes to really structuring the business, building the processes, that's where they need a lot of help. It sounds really good that the people can just come in and it almost sounds like plug and play, but I'm sure that there are some challenges, right?
Yes.
Like there are thieving issues of
Yes.
fit. What are some of these challenges that employers will face?
Yeah, very interesting question. Okay, let's just go down into the social sector specifically. So we spoke with a couple of executive directors in the social sector and we found out that there are a few problems, right? I think one of them is what we mentioned before, the humility piece.
Yeah.
It's not really humility as well. It's just different ways of working, but sometimes there's a bit of judgment involved. So for example, they used to come from MNCs with very good processes. When they come to a social sector, it's almost like going to an SME. So then they say, why everything so manual, etc. Then
Why
if
have to
they
do
wo-
everything?
Yeah,
Yeah.
then why you don't want to implement this? Then why you don't want to do this? Why don't? So then people get offended. So that's one thing, right? How can we go in with an open mind and meet people where they are first? So that's one. Second one is then, are you able to take the operational rigor of the work as well, right? If you are used to just pressing a button and everything comes out, are you able to do Excel, let's say, and all that? So these are all the things, right? And then how do we help them to overcome is that we actually worked with Singapore Poly to craft a appreciation course. So we spoke to all the EDs. We found out what are the problem areas. We built it into the appreciation course and then told them directly in their face that this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do.
They have to relearn how to deal with intergenerational team as well.
Manage expectations on both ends. And then I think own self program amazing. But then the amazing thing is that what we then did was to craft a 2-month returnship experience. So we tell the charities that, hey, you don't have to commit. I think they're afraid of hiring full-time because they're afraid that if the person is not good, then I'm stuck with the talent.
Yeah.
What if you can just do a 2-month project
Okay.
and then these professionals also try out for 2 months?
A bit like an apprenticeship.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, so we call it returnship. So they go
Okay.
in and then they contribute their past experience, but they learn about the sector. Only when both parties are happy with each other, they would then get converted into a full-time, a part-time kind of position.
I guess the last question I have before we wrap up the podcast is, how can a young senior like myself, someone in their 40s, prepare for this eventual future where I might have to sign up as part of your community? But what sort of attitudes should I have?
Yeah, I think I would say maintain curiosity or grow curiosity. I think Gerald made a good point about the network piece. I think network is unfortunately quite important, especially in the second half of your career. Besides building network, is taking on the side hustles and projects you feel that you might want to venture into. So some people, they say they want to go into sustainability or the social sector, but it is a bit sus because the EDs would come to us and say that, hey, if this person in their 40 years of career never
Didn't
even
do anything.
volunteered for a single charity,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
now they come and say they are passionate about a charity. Is it really true or not? And people can sense it, right? So if you want to build, you should start building like way back. If
Okay.
you are interested in sustainability, then maybe you build it into your current projects that you have in your organization. If social sector, you can volunteer, for charities and all that. Then you build your capability. And then when you finally make the leap, you would have the network, you would have the experience and projects under your belt.
If I add on what Kai Ning was saying, I think it really starts with us, those of us who have jobs and you are already in the midst of the grind every day, right? And you want to think about the future. It really starts with wanting to show concern for your future. You need to start to take control. You have to be curious to look at the world and like figure out like what are you really interested about. To move towards those things, to learn a little bit more, to explore a bit more, to have those conversations, to build a network around those areas. You will start to build a certain confidence.
Yeah.
It's like you're creating a little image in your mind of yourself in the future. I could do this. It's not so far-fetched. You start to have some of these ideas, and then that's where you already start to have a plan in your mind, right? So that as you age, you start to see that the picture should get clearer. It shouldn't become dusty. It's also pursuing the learning, the upgrading. If today we get to do this, right, I think we can really enjoy our careers as we grow older. We can, and we be more fruitful as we grow, because like you mentioned, your obligations are over.
Yeah.
And you have the best years ahead.
After this conversation, I got to start putting down that that image of myself on paper and then start working towards that. Yeah, rather than see it as I need to find jobs in demand, but rather what do I want for the rest of my life?
Yeah.
Then you can tell Courage Chapter. Then Courage Chapter can look for the employer for you.
Yes. We'll work on that for the next 10 years. Thank you so much, Kai Ning, for coming on and sharing what you guys do. Hi, it's us again on the Ask Me Anything segment. Now, this week's AMA question came to us from a listener who I'll call Ryan. Ryan says he works in a luxury watch retail company and they recently acquired another retailer in Australia. Now, his job is to orientate and train the staff to their company's service standards. But some of these new team members have been in the industry longer than Ryan, and since he's not local, he's afraid that they won't get his buy-in and respect. Ryan wants to know, what should he do? I mean, I'm sure that it's hard enough to join an existing team, but the dynamics would be different, right? When you are working with people from acquired companies.
For sure. I think when there's a merger or acquisition that's involved, there's a lot of uncertainty and
A little bit of a negative sentiment sometimes.
yeah, a lot of fear, negativity there, because the people who are being acquired, they don't know what's their future like. So I think it's understandable. It's a new situation for them. Most people will be wondering, do I still have a job? This case, Ryan is on the other side, right?
Yes.
Ryan is from the company that acquired this Australian firm, but Ryan is not so confident.
Yeah, he's not sure whether he will get the buy-in and respect from the people that he's going to train, so to speak.
I think the first part of this is I'll be really curious about Ryan's fear or insecurity. Like, why are you concerned? Why are you worried?
Was the takeover aggressive maybe?
Yes, correct. Or is it something more personal? Like, you just don't feel confident working with a person from a different race, a different group. It could be that. It could be multiple factors as well. So I think it's important for Ryan to consider what is really causing that fear in him.
Okay.
Right. And then, of course, in terms of what to do, when it comes to two groups of people coming together, it really starts with...
It's like an arranged marriage.
Yeah,
Nobody knows each other yet, so we're all just testing waters.
Yes, correct. So then you need to really start to invest in the workers by having more communication with them, explaining to them the goals of the new direction, why this merger, why this acquisition had to happen, and how are things going to change. So it's a lot of change management. A lot of change management. And for Ryan as the leader, if Ryan is overseeing this whole thing, change management must be the top priority. Investing in the people, making sure that their get-togethers, communication is clear for them. Ryan will probably have to be very present, perhaps flying down very often there to make his presence known, to show that he's with the people, with them. The first stage of this is really to communicate and to make sure that people understand where this is going.
Yeah, if there are any sort of negative interactions, don't see it as a personal attack. It's not personal. They're not angry with you. They could be confused, like you say, have some fear over their job. How would you then, if you were in Ryan's case, involve senior management if his job is just to train up the staff?
Great point, right? When the senior management is involved, it adds a lot of legitimacy.
Okay.
It's a sense of very strong signal that Ryan is being backed. Ryan is there to support them with the management's backing. So senior leaders could make an appearance together with Ryan on the site in Australia. Senior management could dial in from overseas. They could send a video. Basically, it has to be consistent as well. This communication needs to not look like it's from Ryan, because people will be wondering, like, Ryan is just maybe a mid-level manager, but what does the senior management think? So I think these two has to go hand in hand together, senior management and Ryan, engaging the employees to set the expectations for them of how life will look like for them.
Yeah.
Usually, one of the most important things here that the senior leaders will have to do is to assure people about jobs.
Okay.
They have to explain to them about livelihoods. When there's acquisition, there's usually duplication, right? Like, what would they look like? Who gets to stay? And would there be any cuts? I think our management shouldn't be shy to talk about these things. And perhaps if they have to do it, that they have to do it very quickly.
Yeah, so that doesn't leave somebody like Ryan to have these very awkward conversations that are outside of his job purview.
Yes, correct.
Speaking of like interactions, I know you spoke on structurally, how can the company do it? But from a very personal point of view, I have some advice for Ryan. If Ryan is constantly going back for these trips from Singapore to Australia, he can ask these new colleagues for ideas that are not related to work. He can just say, hey guys, I'm going to be here over the weekend. Just want to know whether there are any sort of places I can visit. Are there sort of nice restaurants that I can go? Because I think these informal interactions also help to break the ice a little bit.
Definitely.
People don't see you as just the guy who flies in to just tell us what to do. People know that actually you are just another one of us as well. I also find that bringing overseas gifts do help. That Bengawan Solo pandan cake in Changi Airport is a very good last minute thing to carry with you. I mean, this is Australia, so you have got to check about the food restrictions, but I'm sure you can bring something from Singapore to them. And it's not really like a peace offering, but it just lets people know that you're thinking about them, that you see them beyond just somebody that you are here to train.
Yes. I think the process of acculturation, Ryan getting to know the Australian way of working, and also for them to also understand what's the Singapore way of working, right? Not just from the food. The food is great. By the way, they have pre-packed kaya.
You can bring the pre-packed.
Yes. So doing all this allows mutual understanding, cross-cultural understanding as well. I love what you talk about, the activities. I know of someone who had to take care of a team in the US, so he flies over and they do bike trips in the US. They visit each other's favorite restaurants. So the leaders there get connected with the people in Singapore and they work so much better. It sets a better foundation for the relationship for work. So Ryan can definitely do a lot of these personal touches. I think cross-cultural part here is important. With the bear in mind, perhaps this is Ryan's first time handling these things. So also perhaps Ryan should give himself some slack.
Yeah. Ryan, just give yourself some slack. It's okay. And carry some goodies along with you. You'll be fine. So if like Ryan, you have a work-related question, send it to us. We are at cnapodcasts@mediacorp.com.sg. We're also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Me Listen, and YouTube, where a video version of this is at. Leave a comment. We are always reading. Now, the team behind the Work It podcast is Junaini Johari, Joanne Chan, Saya Win, Alison Jenner, Shaza Dalilia, and Crispina Robert. Video by Hanida Amin.
I'm Gerald.
And I'm Tiffany. Have a good work week ahead and treat that nice colleague of yours very, very well.